The Florida Panthers defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning in Amalie Arena, but lose a key piece to their lineup. We discuss who stood out in Thursday's game, and did any Florida Panthers put themselves in the lock category as far as making the opening night roster?
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, October 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And Florida Panther fans, what a night it was on Thursday night. And for the Florida Panthers themselves, what a great 2 days it has been for them, as the Florida Panthers spent the day at Universal Studios on Wednesday, the day after their game in Orlando. And Etu Lustoranen spoke at Morning Skate about his favorite ride being the Velocicoaster. They also had I noticed the VIP lanyards that they had for their adventures throughout the theme park, and then going to HHN Halloween Horror Nights after the fact as well. And there were interviews from the Orlando Informer as well. If you get an opportunity to check that out, check it out for sure. What a great 2 days it was for them as far as the theme park, morning skate as well, which the RDV Sportsplex happened to not have public skating that morning due to the Florida Panthers having their morning skate there. So 2 and 2 put together and all that. But as far as the Florida Panthers and their game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, they go down early. The shot differential wasn't big until really the last two periods, where the Florida Panthers outshot the Tampa Bay Lightning 39-12, which the Florida Panthers were just overwhelming the Tampa Bay Lightning with aggressive forechecking, denying speed through the neutral zone, and just second chance, third chance opportunities for the Florida Panthers really throughout the last 40 minutes. And that resulted in their 6-3 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. The goaltending story, as far as Anthony Stolarz going 17 for 20 as far as save percentage, doesn't really tell the whole story. As the Tampa Bay Lightning, two of their goals came from screens in front. One came off of the Florida Panthers icing the puck twice and then winning a key faceoff, and then Nikita Kucherov walking it to the slot and then scoring, and then one from Victor Hedman off a faceoff as well and scoring, and then Steven Stamkos on the power play. But even when the Florida Panthers were down, there were so many times where the Florida Panthers were getting just odd man rushes, 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, where Matt Tompkins was just overwhelmed with opportunities, second, third chance as well for the Cats as well. But before we go into this one into more detail about who stood out and all that, Sam Bennett did leave this game. Only had a time on ice of 9:43, 10 shifts as well. And Paul Maurice spoke after the game that he will be evaluated tomorrow, and that he hopes it's not long term. Usually when Paul Maurice says that something is short term and it's precautionary, he says it right away. So this is a little bit of a concern for the Florida Panthers as far as that. But Etu Lustoranen goes to the top line, and as far as the shot on goal differential, they still had a positive shot on goal differential at 5-on-5 when he was the 1C. And this is without no Sasha Barkov, no Matthew Tkachuk, no Gus Forsling. Dmitry Kulikov didn't play as well in this one. So just very encouraging performance because of not necessarily the result, but even when the Florida Panthers were down, they were showing how a sense of urgency in this one. I mean, you're talking about guys like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, especially. This is one player that really stood out to me. I mean, you see 12-8 as far as the shot on goal differential, and you look at the box score, you think that Florida is not really doing much as far as dominating the game, but I thought they were even once again dominant even before they took the lead. And the whole narrative of Oliver Ekman-Larsson not playing defense. I know it's been a few games and all, and I know there haven't been regular season games, but I feel like that by the time the season's over, at least that's the hope is that that's just an overblown narrative, hopefully, as far as being in a better situation and all. And you think about the wraparound that he stopped from Michael Asamont, and then Stolarz follows it up with putting the glove down and all that stuff. And also where Mirala had an opportunity for an odd man rush himself, a breakaway, and then Oliver Ekman-Larsson pokes the stick and then gets the puck out of him. I know he went to the box for an elbow, which maybe a questionable call for that one, but still, also Ekman-Larsson getting the puck to the net at Tulis and redirecting it for a goal, and then he was responsible for the Nick Cousins goal where he pinches in, creates that puck separating move where Ryan Lomberg gets it quickly to Nick Cousins, and then he scores as well. So Oliver Ekman-Larsson has just done so many things right so far in a Florida Panthers sweater. And like we said with Anthony Stolarz, 17 of 20 as far as saves, and doesn't tell the whole story, but there was an opportunity even before Steven Stamkos scored on the power play where all alone, right on the doorstep, even handled the puck quite a few times, but Stolarz, using his 6'5" frame, gets on the top of the crease and takes away any angle that Steven Stamkos could have had on that one, and and all, and to yeah, traffic right in front of the goals that he gave up, but you're not gonna pin too much on him. So I was honestly, I had a list a few days ago on locks of the roster and all, and I think I put still I today, I think I put Stolarz on the locks as far as making the roster. Also because of situationally as well. George Richards brought up a really great point this morning on how the Panthers were using him in practice as the second guy, the second goalie used as far as units as well. So all signs are pointing to Stolarz being the second goalie come the start of the season, where once again Spencer Knight is going to get his reps in Charlotte to start the season as well. But also, what was impressive was the fourth line as well. 10 shots on goal, a +9 rating. Kevin Stenlin, 6'5", even though he's a big dude. That dude has wheels, and he showed it really on the give and go goal, where Matt Tompkins was maybe a little bit to his left, and then give and go speeds to the net, and then crashes in and gets a goal right into the open net as well. So very impressive what Kevin Stenlin has done, and I think he definitely has a chance to make the opening night roster as well. And also the awareness of Evan Rodriguez of what he does on the ice, as well as centering feeds, not being afraid to circle it back to the point, to wait to have the play develop and for someone to get in front as well, or get when you get it back to the point as well, and having someone from the blue line shoot it as well to create that traffic in front. Evan Rodriguez, Carver Hagee, they even though they did have the scare of Sam Bennett leaving the game early, those guys were connecting. And when you think about Sasha Barkov when healthy coming back, and then having Evan Rodriguez and uh Carver Hagee on the same line, man, is that going to be a top line that's going to be really, really fun to watch. And even with the power play as well, the puck was moving fast. OEL was doing some cross ice passes to Evan Rodriguez to set him up, and I think the power play hasn't been the best through the preseason, but the movement has been great in the preseason, and I'm fairly content with the movement there. Yeah, it's a 4-3 record. Yeah, the preseason record doesn't mean anything, but you see those little itty bitty habits that the Florida Panthers are doing every single game throughout the preseason on what is to come as well. And I know they don't have a full lineup as well, But as far as what the Stars are doing, as far as get getting into the board battles and all, battling in the corner for breakouts, and also preventing the opposition from their breakouts as well, which Tampa Bay was not good on the night as well. There, I haven't seen the giveaway takeaway stats from the night, but man, did Tampa Bay have a lot of them. And one of the goals on the night was scored off a giveaway, quite a few of them too. But we're going to continue in our second segment on discussing more about who impressed on the night as well, and more about who might have a chance to be an additional depth piece, whether it's in Florida or in Charlotte. We're going to discuss that more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Birddogs. And Birddogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and legs, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddogs shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Birddogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks like khakis, but stretches so you can get slimmer, fit without having to sacrifice any movement. Birddogs use anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Birddogs are functional for any occasion, whether it's a golf, date, evening by the pool, workout, or lounging, or if you're at work. So go to birddogs.com/lockedonHL or enter promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonHL for a water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. The NHL season starts next week, and Locked On has put together the ultimate season preview for the Eastern Conference. You can find the episode available now on this podcast feed. And during the season preview, you will see yours truly on it. It's already available on the YouTube. It will be available in audio form as well come Friday. So you will see me answer 5 burning questions in relation to the Florida Panthers upcoming season. But let's continue on what the Florida Panthers were able to do on the night. Just going back to just a few guys. I mean, Kevin Stenlund had 6 shots on goal. Oliel 2 points, Lundell 2 points, Ryan Lomberg had a goal as well, and Justin Sordiff. Let's talk about Justin Sordiff as well as a guy who was just so quick to the pucks, using his speed, using his physicality as well in the neutral zone as well. And I didn't know until like later on, until the game was over, that he was actually credited for that goal that I thought was originally credited to Zach Dalpe, as the Panthers were in on a rush. The Anton Lundell looked to have caught Matt Tompkins off guard. Juicy rebound. Justin Sordiff jabs at it. Zach Dalpe jabs at it too, and then Justin Sordiff is awarded with the goal there as well. But also the awareness that Justin Sordiff had on when behind the net and towards the end boards, and just getting it to Ryan Lomberg as well. And even in the first period, you saw how that line was flying with reaching with the stick and not going to the box as well. The Panthers were only on the penalty kill once in the entire game. And yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning scored, but there was a lot more discipline. There's a lot less scuffles as well in this one. I know Casey Fitzgerald and Austin Watson had another fight in this one as well. Which Casey Fitzgerald, I thought he's impressed more and more throughout the preseason. I think he is in fact going to be the 7th defenseman, him or Matt Kierstead, but I think it's more than likely that Casey Fitzgerald is going to be that guy who is going to be the 7th defenseman. But going back to Justin Sorda, I mean, I thought that he was just incredible, and I think that when it comes to that goal that Ryan Lomberg scored. I mean, that was just pure hockey sense right there. I know it's a very cliche statement as what in that, but you knowing where your teammate is at, and when him and Etu and Dalpe were flying early, and then you have to have a line change with Etu going to the top line as well, and having a whole bunch of shifts changed in this one. I mean, it's got you gotta be quite pleased with what Justin sort of has brought to the table so far, and his compete level too. He's likely not going to make the team. He's likely going to be starting in Charlotte, but you got to be very encouraged as far as maybe the a next man up if there is an injury, which yet we still don't know the status of Sam Bennett when it comes to when it comes to his injury and what happened on Thursday night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Uvis Belinskis, 27 years old, defenseman, likely not to make the team. He is waivers exempt, so you won't risk losing him. I thought he also had a great game as well, and he was aggressive below the hash marks as well, and he was responsible with his pinches as well there. And I think when it comes to him making this far as round of cuts and getting used to the North American game, sometimes other players can take a little bit longer to adjust and all. But Juvis Velinskis is has been definitely one that has caught my eye, especially in this one. Let me see how many shots on goal Juvis Velinskis had. And because I thought that guy was really noticeable. He had four of them in 20 minutes and 58 seconds of time on ice, 29 shifts, and a plus uh one rating as well. And crazy to think that with the this game, the Corsi 4 percentage. I mean, hold on, let me look this up real quick. The Corsi 4 was 94 to 38 in favor of the Panthers. Shot on goal 52 to 20. Blocks 21 to 9 in favor of Tampa Bay. But when you have that many blocks, it means that you are in your own zone but for a long time. And that just goes to show what how much the Panthers spent really in the Lightning zone. And also in the third period, it took 15 minutes for the Tampa Bay Lightning to get their first shot on goal. Is it maybe a little bit of Tampa Bay taking their foot off the gas? Maybe. I who knows. But it's still very highly encouraging the once again compete level that when it comes to this specific roster, I have 19 locks right now on the roster. So, 4 spots are basically up for grabs. A last forward spot, the 13th, 14th forward, and the 7th defenseman. That's it. So it's not going to be a guy who's going to get a whole bunch of time on ice as far as this roster, but an opportunity to be with the big boys, an opportunity to be with the big club, and also the opportunity to get to have your salary as NHL salary versus AHL too. That's the difference as well, and that's what these guys are fighting for. Mackie Semaskevich, not not the most noticeable game for him as well. Very active early on, but I feel like at times that Mackie Semaskevich is not pacing himself as far as that. I feel like he's very active early and then kind of gets a little bit tired and his motor kind of runs out a little bit. And I get it. You're trying to make an NHL roster and all, but I think that he still needs to figure out what his own individual pace is at the NHL level. And even spoke about it through the first few days of training camp, talking about how the guys are faster, a lot bigger, more physical. You got the body up and all, and that there are no bad players in the NHL. And yes, even the worst NHL players, you put them in beer league and they are going to dominate the everyone else. So no bad players in the NHL, which is why you don't hear me on this podcast saying, "Oh, this person stinks" or "that person stinks." Yeah, their play might not be as good as X player, but everyone in the NHL is a good player. and also you think about, and this is the growing pains once again for a youngster, and if he makes if he makes this team, I wonder how the conversation is going to be between coach and player about, hey, I noticed that there when it comes to your pace, that you might be overly aggressive as far as bodying up early on, that by the time you get to the end of the game, you are gassed. Which honestly, Paul Maurice wants these guys to be gassed either way. You're going to be gassed in a game, but it's gassed to the point where it's a little bit harder for a skater to go on the back check as well. So a little bit of something that I personally notice as well from Mackie Samoskevich in this one, and even at times in the game in Orlando as well, that I noticed that. So you know, maybe something that Mackie will work on, and you know what, the and the speed, the puck handling, the threading the needle as far as him on his passes from behind the net, y- you could only imagine how high his floor is as far as what he can become. And if this is the level that we're seeing from Mackie Samoskevich without the finishing at times, then still there's still a lot of great that we can see in the future from Mackie Samoskevich as well. So still not down on the kid. I still think there's a really, really good chance that he makes the roster, which we will likely see more on Saturday as well, when the Florida Panthers do return to Emirates Bank Arena to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. One more game, and this preseason is over. Final cuts, and then we'll see who made it, who didn't, who we might see in the future, who could be a threat to for the Panthers to lose on waivers. And yeah, that is going to be a fun time for content creating for yours truly, as well as the time is coming. The stress level is up for players, coaches, and even us fans and media as well when it comes to who is in and who is out. But in the third and final segment, we are going to continue our greatest Panthers in the 30-year history of the franchise. We are going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Indeed. And Indeed is a hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, Assessment, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed's employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get the short list of quality candidates whose resume on Indeed match your job descriptions, and you can invite them to apply right away. Indeed does the hard work for you. Sponsor a job, and boom, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked on to start hiring now. Go to Indeed.com/locked on. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Third and final segment here on this Friday, October 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So, continuing our series of the greatest Panthers to ever play for the franchise, we have discussed all the way from 30 to 16 earlier this week, and we are going to continue 10 to 1 next week as well, as we prepare for opening night next Thursday against the Minnesota Wild. And as you guys notice, there's no Nick Fairbanks, which means there's no Fairbanks Friday this week. And Nick Fairbanks is back stateside, but he is feeling under the weather. So publicly, I want to say, Nick Fairbanks, I hope you're feeling better, and I will see you next week. And we might be doing a bit of a collaboration project uh, early in the week next week to prepare for the season. So be on the lookout for that. Not going to spoil anything as far as that, but that is a little tease as far. But the greatest Panthers list and continuing it, number 15 comes forward Rob Niedermeyer. Rob Niedermeyer, the first ever draft pick by the Florida Panthers, 5th overall from British Columbia. Brother of Scott Niedermeyer, came from the WHL's Medicine Hat Tigers with the Panthers, big part of the 1996 run to the final, and one of those guys who are not afraid to drop the gloves, as he got 107 penalty infraction minutes in 1996, helped the Panthers get to the Stanley Cup final. So, and with 518 games played, 101 points, 101 goals, 165 assists before leaving to in free agency right before the Stephen Weiss, Nathan Horton, and Jay Bouwmeester era, but eventually did win the Stanley Cup with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim in 2007. Number 14, same era with the Florida Panthers. And this is a guy that you see on the Bally Sports broadcast, not every single night, but a good amount of nights, as well as a Panthers alum, defenseman Ed Jovanovski, and one of the two number one overall picks that the Florida Panthers have had in their franchise's history. The other one, of course, being Aaron Ekblad in 2014. Third in Calder Trophy uh, in the voting in 1996, which that year Hall of Famer Daniel Alfredsson won from the Ottawa Senators, and was unfortunately, after 3 seasons, part of that big trade that brought Pavel Bure to the Florida Panthers back in January of 1999, included a 2000 first round pick, goalie Kevin Weeks, who we see on ESPN and all these breaking news video as well. But Ed Jovanovski was able to return to the Florida Panthers in 2011, where they were starting their rebuild as well, drafting Eric Branson, Jonathan Huberdeau, and a few years later, Alexander Barkov, which Jovo got to play with Alexander Barkov in his rookie season. And let's not forget, he got the C on his sweater when he came back. The 7th captain in Florida Panthers history. And for those keeping score at home, the Florida Panthers in their history have had 10 captains in their 30 years. And also, Jovanovski, you want to know how many seasons he had of 100 penalty minutes? 8. So definitely not another guy, just like Rob Niedermeyer, not afraid to drop the gloves as well and get into people's faces, as Jovanovski was the leader on the blue line, quarterbacking a power play as well, and basically all situations for defensemen as well for the Florida Panthers, being the number 1 overall pick. Number 13 comes Stephen Weiss, forward Stephen Weiss, 2001 4th overall pick, really known for his two-way game when he was drafted out of the Plymouth Whalers, and a man who stayed through so much turmoil, even when Nathan Horton was traded, even when Jay Bouwmeester left in free agency to the Calgary Flames. And he was loyal all these years with the Florida Panthers, and played 11 seasons with the team. And then a few years into the Dale Talon era, decide not to sign him. And then as the Florida Panthers were finishing at the bottom of the league right before drafting Alexander Barkov, finished with 394 points, and he was also known for being a playmaker for the Florida Panthers during his time, with 145 points, 249 assists for 394 points during his time with the Florida Panthers, and played with the Detroit Red Wings for 2 years right before hanging up the skates. So Stephen Weiss comes in at number 13. Number 12, a guy who's near and dear to a lot of our hearts, Jaromir Yager, who is still playing hockey at age 54, I believe it. He is. I've even lost track of how old Jaromir Yager is. I mean, I mean, the man is still going, and a lot of people think this, and actually he's 51. Excuse me. Just looked it up quickly. Um, and as far as exemptions for the Hall of Fame, Gretzky and Lemieux are the only guys who have had that exception as far as not waiting the 3 years to go into the Hall of Fame in Toronto. But if there's any other player who deserves it, it's Yager. And second all time in points, broke the past Gordie Howe in a Florida Panthers sweater, which was such a, a great moment off of with his assist deflected off him, and then the Florida Panthers score. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was against the Boston Bruins. If I'm not mistaken, you still have that Avi of Randy Moeller, Red Deer, on his Twitter page of him interviewing Yarmir Yager from the day that he broke that record. Not record, the record's Wayne Gretzky, but passed Gordie Howe for second all time in points. And you think about what he's done with the Florida Panthers as far as an elder statesman coming in and helping the youngsters at the time of a Barkov, Huberdeau, and Ekblad take their next step as far as their development. And I know when the Florida Panthers faced the New York Islanders, there was like 30 plus games where Jaromir Jagr didn't score a goal, but Yager, just what he's done as far as impact on the franchise, it is forever in our hearts. And it's an era of Florida Panthers hockey, even though there wasn't a lot of winning, that for me, as far as the early-ish parts of watching this team, is for me personally, is something that I will cherish forever, as far as number 68 and all. And I hope that, even though the reason he is playing is because of economics, he believes that the team that he owns will not do so well economically if he's not playing, versus if he is. You feel bad for him, I feel bad for him, at least. And you hope that he could just, but he loves playing hockey, and you hope that he can just hope one day turn it off, as far as not putting his body through that much stress and those bumps and bruises as well, and that he could have a better quality of life once he does eventually hang up the skates as well. So Jaromir Jagr is a special one for sure, and he comes in at number 12 as all time great Panthers as far as that. Number 11, the final one of this episode, is John Van Beesbrook. Goalie John Van Beesbrook, president of USA Hockey, original Panther, Vezina Trophy winner in 1986 with the New York Rangers, and stole hearts of Florida Panther fans when he helped the Florida Panthers get to the 96 final, especially in that Game 4 overtime, triple overtime, Beezer versus Patrick Wall, who is going to be the guy who blinked first as far as that. And the 932 save percentage with a 2.25 GAA in the 96 Stanley Cup playoffs. He was a huge part of the Panthers getting that far as beating the Boston Bruins, beating Eric Lindros and the Philadelphia Flyers, upsetting Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux in the Eastern Conference Final on the road in Game 7, too, in Pittsburgh. Just a big historic performance that he put throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. And even though there's a few off the ice issues that John Van Beesbrook has, as far as the play on the ice, it's definitely memorable in Florida Panthers lore as well. And even in the very next season, 929 save percentage throughout the playoffs in 5 games against his former team, the New York Rangers, against his old teammate Mark Messier, and just really tough that the Florida Panthers were, and seeing that the New York Rangers won the cup in '94, and he spent a decade plus in New York, and then having to lose to them. It little painful when it comes to John Van Beesbrook, as far as losing to the New York Rangers in 1997, the year after the Florida Panthers made it to the Stanley Cup final, and left to Philadelphia, and then retired in 2002. Played a year with the New York Islanders as well. After that, but also still a very impactful player as far as his time with the Florida Panthers. But that is the list as of this point from 15 to 11. And we are going to continue that next week on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We are going to reveal 10 to 1 as far as the greatest Florida Panthers to ever play for the franchise in its 30-year history. And we are going to discuss more about final roster cuts, last preseason game, if there are big storylines from the last preseason game to begin with, and who, if someone got cut, did they deserve to be? Did they deserve a chance? We're gonna ask so many of those questions, and I hope that you guys come next week to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We will be breaking down all of that. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.